Well, guys, I will admit it. I'll put the clown shoes on. I thought, based off of last week's episode, Rings of Power was moving in the right direction. But as it turns out, this show still sucks. But before we get into anything, guys, if you enjoy my content and you want to see more, please be sure to like this video and subscribe for more content. Although there was still a lot of flaws, I thought maybe, just maybe, Rings of Power might deliver at the end of the season. But here we are. This week's episode takes major step backs. Honestly, after watching this week's episode, it felt like a filler to me. I know there was a lot of important stuff happening, but it's just so boring and nothing felt important. And that's probably not good, considering this is the second to last episode. But I will say there are a few things I did like, so let's talk about that before anything else. I think one of the highlights in this show, and especially in this episode, is the character Durin. I really like the actor who plays him, and I feel like his character has a more interesting story to me. Does he listen to his father, who's the king, and not mine this ore? Or does he mine this Míriel and save his friend and his race? He eventually makes a choice this episode, and we see that choice have consequences. He ends up choosing to save his friend Elrond, and we see his father get very upset with him. He banishes him and punishes him. That was the only real story this week that kept me engaged with the episode. And the performance from this actor really kept me in the episode, and it really made me want to see more from this dwarf storyline. Now, obviously, with every episode, the show has some amazing visuals, and this week's no different. In this episode, we see a horse running in the field. And, well, that's pretty much it. You know, I thought this opening scene with the dust was gonna look cool, but it ended up looking like some flaming hot Cheeto ad.
Flaming hot Cheetos, deliciously hot, dangerous, and cheesy.
Now, you might be thinking, with the lack of good visuals, does that mean they improved on the dialogue? No, they did not. It's no surprise that the dialogue in this show has been very abysmal. But this week's a little bit different. Now, there wasn't really much dialogue scenes that stood out to me because they were so bad. Instead, this week, the dialogue was just boring. It really felt this week that all the characters were just talking in circles. It almost sounded like they needed to hit a word limit on an essay.
And talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do.
It also felt this week that the story just completely stopped developing too. The first 5 episodes were a train slowly going across the tracks. Then last week's episode goes full sprint. Then this week's episode just stops completely. Galadriel literally spends the whole episode wandering in the Cheeto dust with Theo. Speaking of the Cheeto dust, it is very dangerous. It apparently can blind you. And that's exactly what happens to the queen. Okay, I know this scene with Thumb on the horse and her realizing that she's blind is supposed to be tragic and serious, but I started laughing. Then later in the episode, she actually turns into that one guy from Mortal Kombat. Oh, and I can't forget about the Harfoots this episode, even though this is my least favorite storyline. So Slim Shady and the Wise Men are hunting our boy Jesus Christ. Wise men. Women? Them. After sending Jesus Christ on his own way, Nori feels a bit bad about it, so when Slim Shady shows up, she tries to redirect them in the wrong way. And you know what Eminem does? He spits some hot fire bars and sets the Harfoot camps on fire.
I can swallow a bottle of alcohol in 'em.
Then we get one of the most terrible lines in the entire show.
We stay true to each other. No matter how the path winds, or how steep it gets, we face it with our hearts even bigger than our feet.
You know, sometimes after watching these episodes, I have to sit down and think that Amazon spent billions of dollars to make this. Alright, let's talk about the big reveal at the end of this episode. It is revealed that the Southlands being completely destroyed gets renamed to Mordor. This reveal was not good, in my opinion. First off, we get a setup line.
Or shall we call it instead, Lord Father?
And at that point, I would just have Adar just say Mordor, you know? But instead, we get text on screen. I just thought this was super corny and an awful way to end the episode. But before we wrap things up on this episode, I do want to bring up this article from Yahoo. It reads, Amazon analysis said he fell asleep watching the company's LOTR Rings of Power TV show, making him even more worried the $1 billion project may be a bust. Amazon analysis Tim Forte said, we fell asleep during our first viewings of episodes 1, 3, and 4, and have not watched episode 5 yet due to a combination of not enjoying the first 4 episodes and a busy schedule. You know it's bad when members of your own company are taking naps during the episodes. Rings of Power at this point might go down as one of the worst failures in TV history. Rings of Power returns to form this week as being another boring show. But good news is, there's only 1 episode left. Did you guys watch Rings of Power this week? If you did, let me know what you thought down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. If you want to catch up on any more of my content, please be sure to click on this playlist right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.